What's up, everybody? Brady Fugel here, coming at you with a review of the new Liminal Shroud record, Visions of Collapse. It was released July 5th, so just over a month ago. Black metal. I would like to preface this video by saying that if there are any diehard black metal fans watching this, or metal elitists watching this, take this review with a grain of salt, because I would not consider myself somebody who is a fan of black metal as a whole. Most of the time, that kind of lo-fi-esque production is the biggest deal breaker for me, in addition to the really long songs and the overall gimmickiness, I guess, of it. Because even if you are a black metal fan, you could probably admit that black metal is a bit gimmicky in a sense that I don't think every single person who's ever been in a black metal fan is actually like a Satan worshiper. I know, just bear with me here. So it is very hit or miss for me, and most of the time it ends up being a miss. But I will say that when it hits, it really fucking hits. My favorite black metal album personally is the Pelorian record, the only Pelorian record released in 2017, which was the kind of spin-off band of Agalloch, fronted by their vocalist John Home, I think it's pronounced. That record I love because it's so atmospheric. Black metal for me to really enjoy it has to be atmospheric. There has to be ambiance to it and a heavy emphasis on mood. And that record does that beautifully. It is just so dark and moody and depressing. It's been one of my go-to albums the last couple years here in the Midwest when we get these really heavy blizzards. And whenever I'm driving at night in a blizzard and there's just nothing but snow everywhere and it just looks so fucking desolate, that album is just the perfect soundtrack to that. And it's hard for me to find more albums like that. I do like a lot of Agalloch's material as well, but I'm kind of always on the lookout for some new black metal music that's more atmospheric, where the emphasis is more on the mood. And I will say, this record does a great job of that. Whether it is the super kind of desolate but somewhat clean sounding intro of the first track, Nocturnal Phosphorance, which is a bit more ambient, I guess, and it sticks out because there isn't a lot of moments on this record that are just straight ambiance. Most of these dark and moody feelings I get from this record are in those tremolo guitar riffs. Track 3 on here, Resolve, probably is my favorite instance of that. Just like the first 3 minutes for the most part, but also just the way this song takes that chord progression that starts the song, like I said, in that first 3 minutes, and kind of just evolves it, the whole song, and it really changes things up while keeping that same bass chord progression and that same mood. And then at the end of the song, it kind of reaches like this grand finale that sounds almost somewhat triumphant, but then it breaks back down into like this more slower doom metal influenced part. The track Malaspina, which is the only track on here that's under 9 minutes, that one almost gives me some like mellow death vibes at parts. Just in the melodies in those guitars, they do sound somewhat triumphant, but they still have this kind of dark undertone to it. I also have to compliment the clean vocals in that song that are just kind of like hovering over. Moments like that are what makes me come back to a black metal record, because they do genuinely sound evil and melancholy. This sounds way more, again, evil and just mean sounding than if it was just straight extreme metal blast beats and tremolo riffs the whole time. And I like that mean and genuinely evil feeling. Again, that's what I look for in a black metal record. The Carving Scythe, the closing track, is fucking sick. It starts out with, again, another really cool tremolo chord progression. And then like right at the 240 mark, it completely switches up. The time signature changes. It goes from a 6/8 to a 4/4 time. And even the feel of the song switches up. That change in time signature gives it like a cool boost almost, and it really changes the overall feel of the song and makes it much more intense sounding. And then at around the 425 mark, it breaks down into one of the most emotive ambient parts on the whole record. Like that one chord progression that you hear captures like every single emotion you could possibly feel from a black metal album. I don't think people realize just that black metal, or extreme metal as a whole, honestly, is some of the most like emotive music there is. Like pop, hip-hop, rap, country, even most rock and metal, none of those types of music capture what that chord progression captures. Like, it's just not heard of. That's what makes this type of music so unique. And sure, the whole Satan imagery of black metal as a whole might have something to do with it. Track 2, Nucleonic Blight, is another song that just captures so many emotions somehow in the same chord progression. Like, these chord progressions in this song sounds somehow triumphant and depressing at the same time. And I did note down some timestamps for that song as well, but honestly the whole song is like that. I don't even think I need to say any timestamps. And even though I did find the vocals to be a bit unintelligible, but it's fucking black metal, I don't even know if I could really even call that a criticism. I did luckily find their lyrics on Bandcamp. They were posted, and these lyrics are actually really great. Like, they're super fucking badass, and they're not gimmicky. They're not just talking about Satan. They're actually very existential, even somewhat apocalyptic at times. Some of the last lyrics in the song, the last song on the album, the Scythe, talk about floods that submerge the sun. Lyrics on this record are just so desolate and dystopian. I do wish that I could understand them more. That's just me. But that being said, I will compliment the production on this record. It sounds great. The guitars radiate, and those harmonized tremolo riffs whenever they come in sound very full and very ambient, and it really complements the overall mood and ambiance of the record and the songs individually too. The drums are very clear and every part of the kit really pops, yet they still maintain that kind of lo-fi production quality of black metal. And not in a way that makes them sound tinny or underproduced or immature. Rather, it feels like it complements the music very well. And the vocals, despite being a little unintelligible, are performed really well. Like, the shrieks are done in a way that, again, really complements the moods of the songs. And when you read along to the lyrics as you're listening, and you can actually piece it together with how the vocals sound, it makes for a very fascinating listen. Overall, I have not much negative to say about this record, which, trust me, for a black metal album coming from me, that is a huge compliment, because I am not able to say that about very many black metal albums. I think probably the only way that this could have been a better album for me personally is maybe condensing some of the songs, because although I do like the overall progressions of these songs, they do feel a bit drawn out at times. And I do wish there were a bit more parts that were stripped back that really cranked up the ambiance, as opposed to most of it coming from the tremolo guitars. Again, take like the intro of the first two tracks, or that kind of calm break in the Scythe that I complimented earlier. But overall, this is a pretty good album. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how I view it in the future, because black metal is such like a winter thing for me, like I mentioned earlier with the Pelorian record. Yet this album dropped in like the middle of summer, which usually when an album drops, around the time it drops, that's the time of year I'm most associated with it. So albums that come out in the summer, I associate with warm weather and just the summer atmosphere. So it's going to be interesting to see if I end up revisiting this album in the winter, like the majority of black metal I enjoy, or if it's going to be like the first real summer black metal album for me, which feels somewhat like an oxymoron of me to say. But hats off to Liminal Shroud here, as this is definitely a pretty good record for me. And if there's any fans of this band or black metal fans in general, please comment below some other bands like this that really focus on the ambiance and the atmosphere, because I'm genuinely having a hard time finding bands like that. This album gets a 23 out of 30 for me. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more content like this. I have several reviews coming up. I'm planning on reviewing the new Mushroomhead record. I'm planning on reviewing that god-awful fucking Five Finger Death Punch ex-guitarist Jason Hook just released an album with this band called Flat Black, and it's fucking terrible. So I guess there's a spoiler alert for that. But if you want to see me rant about that, definitely subscribe. That should be an entertaining video for me to make. I'm also doing my top 10 records of every year starting in 2013 up until the present. My 2014 video is going to be coming out very soon, so if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe as well. And once again, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.